contrast is everything in this election. And I think the military is the greatest example to show the contrast between two men.
The Biden campaign agrees, at least for now. On the heels of the president's trip to Europe and remarks at Normandy, the Biden campaign released this television ad.
A good commander-in-chief is somebody who gives a shit. My name is Curtis Register. I served in the United States Marine Corps.
My name is Ed McCabe. I served from the 1990s into 2014.
Hey, my name is Matthew McLaughlin. I was a Navy pilot for 8 years.
It is the first time I'm shaking the hands of a president of the United States. It was pretty impactful to me to see an individual that supports troops not just on the battlefield, but when we return home.
I see a man in Joe Biden who accepts accountability and responsibility. And when I see his predecessor, Donald Trump, I see a man who is only in this for himself.
Who criticizes veterans, who doesn't see it important for him to go to the funerals.
Donald Trump has zero accountability in his life.
He's a draft dodger, simple as that.
I think the election is the difference between authoritarianism and democracy. And I came to see a president that cares about maintaining democracy.
Donald Trump, he's not fit to be commander-in-chief, he's not fit to lead a squad, and he's definitely not fit to be president of the United States.
Marketing and branding expert Donnie Deutsch.
You know, there's nothing more American. There's nothing that brings us together more than the military. And to me, and Donald Trump has trashed it, and he's trashed every institution. And I think, and I said this before, I said before seeing that ad, and I believe it more than ever before, the military is the secret weapon. Let's let it loose.
And it's not just the Biden campaign that is opening fire. The anti-Trump Lincoln Project on the D-Day anniversary published this.
The greatest generation of Americans fought to free Europe from a monstrous dictator. This was America at her best. Today, the Republican heirs to the greatest generation are siding with a monstrous dictator at war in Europe. Instead of the boys of Point du Hoc, we now have the boys of Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. Will we allow these politicians to destroy the legacy of the greatest generation? It's time for action. It's time for Americans to tell their representatives in government to stand up for what's right. Tell the Republicans in Congress to stand up for freedom, not Vladimir Putin. Tell them America stands with Ukraine, not Russia, with freedom, not tyranny. We stand with the boys of Du Hoc, with the greatest generation, with the version of America that is our best, and which can still be a beacon of freedom throughout the world.
In my view, the Lincoln Project ad and the ad from the Biden campaign are both strong and effective. And the opportunity for President Biden to carve out a contrast on military issues, national security, and freedom, well, that's becoming more clear by the day. Because never mind Donald Trump's history of demeaning the military, cozying up to Putin and endangering Ukraine, and not understanding the sacrifice of U.S. soldiers buried at Arlington National Cemetery, as Trump's former chief of staff alleges, Donald Trump's advocates in conservative media are now trashing U.S. troops. Mediaite headline, Laura Ingraham rips Republicans for asking for more money for the woke military.
And by the way, exactly what would our tax dollars and borrowed money be paying for under this current leadership? Because all manner of woke insanity, even our Navy SEALs, our most elite military special ops teams, aren't immune. Check out their Facebook page. The word pride, which was the hallmark of military service, now co-opted by the far left. This is appalling. The only banners that should be showcased by the military is the United States flag and the respective flags of the armed forces.
Yes, Laura Ingraham believes that because the Navy SEALs showed solidarity on their website with LGBTQ+, the Navy SEALs and other military units should have their budgets cut. The disregard and disrespect for U.S. forces is a pattern with the Trump crowd. And on top of that contrast with the Biden campaign, there is also a clear difference in policy. MAGA world and Trump are isolationists. They believe in America first and not using U.S. military power or influence to promote and defend democracies. The Biden administration and some Republicans support strengthening the U.S. military and using America's influence to protect and defend allies and democracies. U.S. troops, I believe, fall more clearly in the Biden approach. And the Biden respect for the military compared to Trump trashing it will have an impact on voters. There are other issues, of course, that could impact the presidential campaign, including justice, Donald Trump thinks he can attract significant support from African Americans.
I've done more for black people than anybody since Abraham Lincoln, and they understand it. They really understand it. And they also had the best job numbers they've ever had. They had the best job numbers they've ever had during the Trump administration.
Actually, the numbers are better now under the Biden administration. Also, Donald Trump's record includes calling nations in Africa countries. As a businessman, Donald Trump denied black folks housing and was fined by the Department of Justice. He demonized the Central Park Five, and he demanded black people be taken off of his construction projects. So race relations are not a Trump strength. How about the economy? Well, during the 2020 campaign, Donald Trump declared that if Joe Biden became president, the U.S. markets would crash. They did not. And since President Biden has been in office, the markets have risen by 35%. And every month, incredible jobs numbers and employment data keep coming, astounding even President Biden's harshest critics at Fox.
This is something, 272,000.
Nancy Lazar was right. She was right.
She was right. 272,000. Everybody, the estimate was 185,000. And by the way, that blows even the top of the range from economists going in. The range was 120 to 258, and we came in at 272. The unemployment rate hit 4%. The estimate was 3.9%. So this is something else. All right.
In plain English, the U.S. economy under President Biden continues to be the envy of the world. Now, the Biden campaign needs to do a better job of highlighting much of that. But when you consider that campaigns are about contrast, the economic contrast in reality falls in Joe Biden's favor. Same with race relations and economic opportunities. And the biggest contrast in this campaign may indeed be the approach to U.S. military forces. President Biden respects them and sees the military as a force for good. Donald Trump doesn't seem to respect or understand the military and only sees U.S. troops as a force for himself. That contrast is indeed a Biden campaign weapon. By the way, one of Donald Trump's fiercest supporters in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, recently got scolded to her face by Republicans.
Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes.
At the House Oversight Committee, Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to suspend reality.
No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
I reclaim my time. In my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Gentlelady, suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Suzanne Sunded, who wrote, "MTG is a total low-class clown." Interesting emoji. I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about President Biden's respect for the military being his best weapon against Donald Trump. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.